say that. Let's go back to the past, the good old days, where games were good. And the console war was crazy.
Doing? Dudes, Sega has recently come out and said they plan on revitalizing their classic franchises. They keep trying to revitalize Sonic and failing over and over again. But that's not what this video's about. I thought about Sega's best console ever. No, it's not the Dreamcast. It's that Sega Genesis, boy. And dudes, you gotta think, Sega has a great relationship with Nintendo, and so these franchises could very well make an appearance on that Nintendo Switch. So I said to myself, what 5 Sega Genesis franchises do we need to see with that modern day touch? Now, I do have some criteria for the list I'm about to share. First, it had to be a Sega Genesis exclusive. Sorry, Aladdin, you were awesome on the Genesis, but you were also on that Super Nintendo. Second, I'm going off my memory as a little kid on my experience, my enjoyment, my perspective of the game. And so if you disagree, so what? Ain't nothing you can do about it. Also, I'm only mentioning games I've played. I heard Gunstar Heroes was an awesome game, but I never played it as a kid, so I ain't talking about it in this video. Last disclaimer, no Sonic games. Sonic doesn't need to be revitalized. It needs to be euthanized. Oh, did I really say that? I meant it's already being revitalized, sort of. The first game on the list, Altered Beast. Oh, no, he did it. Oh, no, he did it. Oh, that's probably the worst game on the Sega Genesis. Hear me out, dudes. Hold the pitchforks. I didn't say this was a list of the best games on the Sega Genesis. I said these are games that need to be revitalized. Altered Beast was a pack-in title. It was cool the first 2 times you played it. No, it was cool the first time you played it. No, it was cool after the second stage. No, it was cool only after the first stage. No, it was horrible. It was horrible. And so while the gameplay was pretty bad, the concept of this game was cool. Dude, you walk around as this dude and you progressively get power-ups and you can see yourself getting stronger until you turn into a beast, a werewolf, a dragon. And so that concept in itself, I'd love to have that remodernized with good gameplay. And the boss battles were pretty cheap. I still remember me as that green dragon going up to that monster with all the eyeballs and just flying in one spot, electrocuting him over and over and over. But the bosses looked cool. I'd love to see a beautiful 3D model of that eyeball boss, of the first stage boss, that creature that throws his heads at you. Bring it back. And so it's the concept of this game. Everything looked cool in theory, even though it didn't quite play out how Sega expected. Number 4, Virtua Racing. At the time, the Super Nintendo had Star Fox. What was Sega's response? Virtua Racing. Just like Star Fox had a special chip, the FX chip, inside of the cartridge, Virtua Racing also had its own unique chip. It cost $100 for the game though. $100 for a Sega Genesis game. I kid you not. I kid you not, but I had it. I got it though. It was $100, and I remember that game kept freezing on me. None of my other Sega Genesis game froze on me, but that game kept freezing. I was like, oh, I'm about to win. I'm about to cross the finish line. Oh, I just spun out. Yes, I took that corner like a boss. Here we go. $100 and the game kept freezing on me. Why do we need this remake? Why do I want this game particularly on the Nintendo Switch? For one, it was a well-made racing game. I mean, the mechanics were sound, the controls were spot on, and we only got Mario Kart. When you really think about it, Nintendo does not have a realistic Forza-type racing game. Highlight Sega. Let them hook you up with the real racing game, Virtua Racing. Number 3, Vectorman. Again, this game was in response to the Super Nintendo. The Super Nintendo just released Donkey Kong Country. And what did Sega do? Give us a man made of balls. Everywhere. Just put them all together and call him Vectorman. But dudes, this is a good game. I mean, a real good game. If this was a list for the best games on the Sega Genesis, this game would be on it. The controls were amazing. Fast and smooth and responsive. You had complete control over Vectorman. I liked the little energy balls he threw. I liked how you could double jump. I liked the enemy designs. I liked everything about this game. What immediately stood out at you was the graphics. At the time, this looked real good on the Sega Genesis. I still remember the first stage balls, like an airplane or a helicopter where you had to shoot them. I remember dying as a little kid on the first balls, but once you learned the boss patterns and beat them, it was so rewarding. Vectorman on the Nintendo Switch with the Joy-Cons would be epic. Number 2, this really isn't one game per se, but a series of games that Sega needs to bring back and Nintendo needs desperately, and the gaming community in a whole needs. Sega Sports, particularly in the football genre. If you want to play a good simulation football game, all we have is Madden. But back in the day, we had that Joe Montana football. Even though the first Joe Montana game was ironically made by EA Sports, after that, Sega had another company work on it, and it was Sega's baby. Dudes, I still remember Joe Montana 2 Sports Talk Football. At the time, to have a live commentator, oh, it was mind-blowing. Oh, my mind was blown. The actual gameplay was horrible in that game though. It wasn't until Joe Montana 3 that the game actually was good. But it'll be so cool for Sega to make sports games on the Nintendo Switch to compete with EA. You only want to give us FIFA? It's alright. We got Pet Rally Basketball. We got Buster Douglas Boxing. We don't need your games, boy. And number 1, Streets of Rage 2. Dudes, this is one of my top 3 Sega Genesis games ever. This game is probably the best 16-bit beat-em-up game on any platform. Sorry, Final Fight. Dude, the variety in the character selection, there weren't just palette swaps, but each character was unique, had different speed and strength attributes, had different special moves. The game was just good. The gameplay was solid. The graphics were good. The enemy designs. Dudes, we had Ultimate Warrior. How many other fighting games had the Ultimate Warrior? This game had tons of replayability. I remember fighting with the little black dude on the skates and then beating the game again with the dude with the fire uppercuts and then the girl and then the big strong guy. Each stage had cool, unique backgrounds. Yes, some of the enemy designs were a little repetitive, but that's in every beat 'em up. But this game was good. And so, those are 5 games that Sega needs to revitalize, bring back from the grave. I'm scared. Keep Echo the dolphin in the grave. No, don't bring him out the grave. No Echo. What are your thoughts on these games that I mentioned on that Sega Genesis? What Sega games do you want revitalized and on that Nintendo Switch? Sound off in the comment section below. I want to know. But before you go, bro, click that subscribe button. Stay up to date. All things Nintendo.
I need to trim my mustache, don't you think? Yeah, I think so.